That's not against the law.
As you
Okay,
wait.
so imagine I'm a police officer.
Oh,
pulling
this
you
is
over,
amazing.
And you're Philando Castile. Do you have your license and insurance?
Yes. Officer, I do have to tell you, I do have a firearm on me.
Okay, don't reach for it then.
I'm
Don't pull it out.
not pulling it out.
He's not pulling it out.
Don't pull it out.
Bang! That is the exact moment Philando Castile was shot.
That's how you're going to present the Philando Castillo story? Oh my god, so much drama. Yeah, that's not that's not really an accurate characterization of what happened with the Castillo case. You can actually watch the video of what happened, and also, like, by the way, I do think the cop acted like pretty irrationally in that case. But Castillo was reaching for, I believe, his wallet, and that's why he ended up getting killed. And the other thing that people leave out, and people should always keep this in the back of their mind whenever they're being pulled over by a cop, is you don't know the reason why you're being pulled over, even if it's for a traffic violation. So Castillo was actually being pulled over because his car matched the description of a car that was involved in an armed robbery. So the cop was already on edge as he was approaching his car. So even if you didn't do nothing and like you feel like you're fully within your legal rights and all that, you don't have the same information that like other officers have. And that's actually happened to me where I literally had the police called and somebody said that somebody was hiding in my house and like the cops were like guns blazing to get this fugitive. So like, you don't know. So you should always assume that there's some other information that you don't have. If Castillo had put like his hands on the steering wheel, he probably would have been shot. But also that officer was like out of control. I remember that video where he's like screaming and panicking and like roaring. It's ridiculous. What is up, guys? I am here and I am officially streaming on my Twitch channel. Yes, I know you're impressed. Yes, I know nobody's watching. Yes, I am on Twitch and I'm officially an e-girl now. So welcome to my normal stream setup. We're gonna have some fun today. I'm gonna wait for a few more people to come in. So I have a great idea for today for my first maiden voyage on Twitch. What I'm gonna do is watch my most viewed video on YouTube and react to it, looking back on it like 2 years later. So a lot of Twitchers like react to content, and I'm a narcissist, so I'm of course gonna react to my own content, which I think way smarter than reacting to somebody else's content, because also Twitch has weird terms of service where you can't make fun of other Twitchers too much. And I don't even know who's on Twitch because, like, who the fuck cares about who's on Twitch? So this is my most viewed video. It's Adam Ruins Everything, which is weird because it's like, I'd never made a video about Adam Conover. It has 692,000 views, which is crazy. Like, oh, and I gotta like it. You gotta like your own videos, obviously. And it's about Adam Ruins Everything, and it's about gun control. And I think I'm gonna watch this on, let's see, I think the Twitch standard is to watch it on at least 1.5 times speed. And yeah, for like the first couple of streams, like, I'll do call-ins or whatever, but I'll also have like viewings of my older videos because, like production quality has advanced so much, and it's always good to look back and sell you guys the same exact content that I sold you previously, but this time on a new platform. So this way I don't really have to work, but I can Twitch. Very intelligent, very smart, very cunning on my part, and like, and very undetectable. Like, it's hard for you guys to even like know that's what I'm doing. So, I think it's impressive. However, in a recent episode but I need the song first, because people missed the song. Adam Ruins Everything, entitled Black People Are Being Left Out of the Gun Control Conversation. Adam and True TV fail on every level. In fact, there were so many mistakes, missteps, errors in this video, it was actually difficult for me to find out how to start my video in response to it. Now I'm going to put together a well-researched refutation of the facts and figures. Damn, I was such a nerd back then. Well-researched refutation. I use all those big school words. You notice I'm wearing the Batman Beyond shirt? That's like my most frequently worn shirt. Also, I could tell by looking at this video that I had not figured out my lighting situation then, because it's way too dark in this frame. Like, you could see on the like right side of the screen on like this cheek that it's actually a little bit blown out because the filtration on that white is too high. But yeah, yeah, there's that. So people are saying the video's lagging. Honestly, no. Like, it's not lagging. You're lagging. Honestly, it's your fault, and I will not excuse your lagging behavior. Ruins everything, and basically shame him and the True TV research staff because, again, I'm one person, not an entire staff, and I managed to debunk almost all of the claims in this video. But since the primary function of this video is actually to virtue signal about race and show how woke Adam Ruins Everything is,
conversations in America are always centered around what makes white people feel safe.
My wife is black. Oh no, I just became one of those people.
oh my god, I forgot about this video. It's like, it's gun control is racist, but also not having gun control is racist, but also all white people are racist. I think that's generally the mode of this video. I don't remember it so much. It was years ago. Also, they're like, she's like, my wife is black, because, you know, they gotta have the she can't be married to a dude because that's not progressive whatsoever. But yeah, she just became one of those people, guys. Jeez, I love Adam Ruins Everything. It's the best show ever.
Ava, I'm sorry. I had no idea.
It's not her responsibility to talk about it. It's our responsibility as a country.
But I drive with my weapon every day. That's not against the law.
That's where I'm gonna start, because not. I like how they're like, I'm just ignorant white person. I can't figure out anything. It's this, people are treated differently. Like, I don't even know that. And you could tell that the actor like naturally believes that like the biggest determiner of how you're treated is by race. Like, he's not selling that point very well. But, you know, there's that. But yeah, obviously it's really weird that they want to do like an in-depth gun control view, but it started so much on like the racial component to it, but not even anything interesting, just like feelings based on it. And my other favorite part about it is they're like, it's not her responsibility to teach you this, even though in this episode, she like literally takes over the show. She usurps Adam and his role and teaches for the whole episode, which is also like a giant misnomer, because in reality, like, it's the same writers. It's the same people behind everything. Like, there's nothing, you know, there's nothing unique or special about it. So like, it's not like they had a different staff for this. But yeah. All right, let me switch back. Am I doing this right, where I talk way too much about something unrelated to the video that I'm watching? And I'm really trying. I learned a lot from BreadTube. I'm going to be the best BreadTuber ever, because I won't be a communist and there will actually be bread to go around. Surprisingly, they managed to mess this up too. And the problems with this sketch start immediately with the framing device. For those of you unfamiliar with the series, Adam Ruins Everything usually starts with some type of framing device to set the stage for Adam to come in and ruin everything. So when he did the episode about how diamonds are a scam, it would be two people shopping for an engagement ring.
Emily, will you marry me? How sweet.
When he did the episode about how mattresses are really all owned by the same company, the person would be at a mattress store.
Name's Kathy Morcioli. Single mother, very busy, always.
You following? Good. I'm like so rude. Like, I never realized how rude I am. Meanwhile, I'm like discussing something incredibly obvious. I'm like, whoa, you use a framing device to set up the thing that you're going to talk about. But it's like so aggressive. I'm like, you're following? Good. Like, idiot. Yeah, I really shouldn't talk down to you guys. I'm sorry about that. My YouTube personality was way more aggressive than I actually was, or than I actually am. I'm like a kind, sweet man, and honestly, I'm ashamed of this. And yeah, progressive comedy is my favorite. I like that. All right, let's go back. But yeah, I'm very aggressive for somebody who's like very poorly lit and blown out on the right side of my face. Yeah, strange. Because the framing device in this episode is so cringy, so poorly thought out, that it actually produces a great number of negative racial and gender stereotypes. So real quick, this woman is married to this woman, and this guy is one of their fathers and one of their father-in-laws. Now, this YouTube channel is ultra progressive, so we're not going to assume which woman this man is the father of, because honestly, I have no idea. I can't tell. That's how woke and progressive I am. So the way the scene is set up, these two have been arguing. I don't know why I think that's so funny. Like, I still think that's really funny, honestly. You know what's funny is in the comments of this video, because nobody can pick up sarcasm on YouTube at all, there are people like unironically explaining like which person he is obviously supposed to be the father of. And then there's people that actually get the joke. And at the bottom of the video in the comments, they're like, I'm so progressive, I didn't even know they were gay married because I can't see gender. So really like a whole mixed bag of really dumb people and slightly clever people. The video is lagging hard. Yeah, I don't know how to fix that, dude. I'm trying. Relax. It's not lagging on my phone. Look, you're lagging. That's the problem. It's your Twitch. It's your fault. Like I looked at my stream dilation accelerator and it says it works perfectly fine and you're specifically wrong. Like I don't know if you guys know that, but that's how it works. Stream dilation accelerator. You got to get one of those. Since they were at the household. In the course of the conversation, the white woman makes a comment about how her wife left and she didn't seem too pleased about the direction of the conversation.
Why did Ava get all upset and just leave?
And we're going to dub this stereotype number 1, overly emotional woman. Now, this is all set up for Adam, who is the host of the show, to later hand over the show to this woman.
All right, White Urkel, I'll take it from here.
Which leads us to stereotype number 2. One black person represents all black people and is knowledgeable about all black issues. Adam, according to the logic of the show, ruins everything because he is the quote-unquote expert. He's the intellectual. But his knowledge is in... Yeah, I don't know why I focused so much on the framing device of this video. I mean, obviously it worked, but at the same time, you know, that's what you call it. Oh, so somebody's saying, Alpha's saying it's the original quality of the video. Sean didn't know what he was doing back then. I mean, I lowered the quality so it would play better because people said it was lagging, but the video is kind of like not the best quality. I mean, it's still 1080 originally and all that, but the audio, I could already hear it from the headphones that it's like kind of poppy because I don't have the best like filtration. I don't have the ideal settings for the mic, you know, all that nonsense. But yeah, I don't know why I focus so much on this. It's the screen capture FPS, the frames per second. I mean, the video's in 24, and I'm just using the StreamYard screen capture. I mean, I could close apps. Like, let me close my Discord. Let me close this app. Maybe lower shit on the computer. But it's StreamYard's your webcam strong. See, the problem is I try to use Streamlabs OBS, but that got really laggy on my thing. But whatever. As long as you can hear the video, it's fine. It's not a big deal. You can watch at home on your own time. Inferior to some random black woman because she happens to be black. The presupposition that black people are automatically qualified to talk about quote unquote black issues. Yeah, I'm bored by this part of the video, honestly. I'm gonna skip to the now expected to explain these issues to white people.
So it's not my responsibility to teach white people their own racist ass history.
Now, this wouldn't be a problem if the white people we were talking about in this scenario were anybody else except her actual family. While it makes perfect sense to not want to engage in an uncomfortable conversation with random strangers, getting angry at your wife, aka the person you chose to marry, for asking, oh yeah, that is really weird. It's like she randomly like describes them as like random white people, which is true because she's an actress, obviously. But like in the show, it's very much that she's married to this person. And it's like, talking to my wife, that's fucking beneath me. Like it's very hoity-toity and rude. The screen capture video of the video is 24 frames per second. So it matches, that's the issue. She forgot her own role. I don't know what that means. I'm offended by that. Oh, like the actress forgot her own role. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I'm like bored by the framing device of this, honestly. I don't know why I spent so much time on it. No wonder I got like so much hate about it. Also, wait, where's the part where do I have the part where she calls him White Urkel and he says thank you? All right, I hope this is the part. I really do.
This ass history. All right, White Urkel, I'll take it from here.
After Ava says it's not her responsibility. Why didn't I have Adam Conover's reaction to that? Because in the thing, he's like, oh, what a great compliment. Like, you know, you're supposed to take a direct insult to your face and like it. God, Adam is like the worst. I don't like him. I don't support him. I'm against him. Yeah. You got hate on the fun control video? Like a little bit. Like the likes to dislikes are overwhelmingly positive. So, you know, ability to teach white people their own racist history. She then proceeds to take over the show to teach white people their own racist history. So add irrational woman to the list of stereotypes presented by the woke people at True TV. So woke, you're actually pretty gosh darn racist. Bravo. Round of applause.
Fellas,
Oh my
are you
God.
still powdering your bones?
Ads.
You know,
There's mid-rolls in this thing? Skip that. Content.
All right, now that we've covered that, we're gonna burn through.
I hate mid-rolls, honestly. Content creators making a living, total assholes. I'm against it. Yeah, I abandon it. Somebody says, "What was that?" It was like an ad, and some guy was like powdering his balls. So I mean, it's an interesting thing. Yo, Alf, don't spoil this for me. All right. I don't. If you can't tell, I don't pay YouTube for the ad-free system. I'm not a supporter of that. Shawinception, yes, that is what's going on. The S Club sounds better. I don't know what the S Club means. I don't know what you're talking about, young man. You need to quell that attitude.
The beginning part of this video a little bit, because honestly, it's in the mostly true category.
In the early years of our country, many colonies and states had laws barring Native Americans and free black people from buying or owning guns.
Yes, a lot of the initial gun restrictions were put into place for racial reasons. We've all heard about poll taxes, which were meant to deter poor minorities from voting. Well, gun permits originally served the same function. So yes, many leftist policies are deeply rooted in the racist history of the Democratic Party.
And
I realized my cuts are way more harsh back then. Like now I just ramble on like and just blah, 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 tell like a completely irrelevant story in the beginning of a video that like takes forever. But back then, like those cuts are like sharp and I can actually hear it in my headphones, like the audio pop from one place to another. So it's not as smooth as I would have thought it was during editing, which is just interesting for me anyway. Probably not interesting for you, but honestly, like, you know, whatever. We watch what I say we watch.
racist fears of black people have continued to inform our gun control laws. In 1960s California, the Black Panthers resisted police violence in
Wakanda
Oakland by
forever.
patrolling the city with guns. Lawmakers responded
'Cause he said
by
Black
passing
Panther.
a bill that banned open carry. The bill applied to all Californians, but it was meant to blatantly target the Black Panthers. And that bill was signed by then California Governor and NRA member Ronald Reagan.
Adam then just takes a shot at Ronald Reagan while minimizing the bombings and all the crimes of the Black Panthers because, you know, he's totally not pushing.
People forget about the vibranium thing, where the replacement for Black Panther actually tried to send vibranium weapons around the world to rise up. You know, that was a whole big scandal too around that time, and that probably contributed to it. You know, the movie Black Panther was actually based on that historical event. So, you know,
An agenda.
there was that.
It's ridiculous. It's cringy. He also vaguely alludes to the fact that the NRA used to be in favor of gun control legislation, which is true. But I'm not a rookie.
Ooh,
I know
Tiffany
that the point
throwing
of
my
this is not to point out
Streamlabs
how the
link in
NRA's
there. Oh, look
agenda
at
has
that.
changed over time. It's to
I
set up for the
appreciate
fact
that.
that maybe they were racist in the past, so then he can use a weak sauce argument to say that the NRA is racist. Now we're going to address.
Why
that
am I
later in the
leaning?
video.
You know what I
Don't
realized
you
that I
worry about it.
For
like.
years, New York City had an official policy to stop
Oh
black
no,
and
we're gonna
brown
stop on Stop and Frisk soon. But yeah, I just. Oh wait, I have to go back to the point I was trying to make. Okay. Okay, I just realized I'm like leaning out of frame, like very weirdly. Like, you guys could see it. It's very strange. Oh, and she shows off her avatar. But yeah, it's very yeah, I don't know why I didn't just move over. Like my DSLR camera has like an LCD like flip out. Hold on one second. I'll explain this to you with visual aids. All right, I'm coming back. Come back. Okay. So like this is the DSLR that I shoot on. Ignore the fact that I just tangled in my headphones, and it has like a flip out LCD screen. So like it's weird that I would be able to shoot a video, look at that, and not realize that I was out of frame, like, you know, or borderline out of frame. Very strange. I don't know how I feel about that. Honestly, looking back, the fact that almost 700,000 people watched this video and you guys didn't nitpick every aspect of it like I am now, shameful and embarrassing, and quite polite of you, and I thank you for it, because my fragile ego wouldn't have been able to take it back then.
The weak sauce argument to say that the NRA is racist now. We're going to address that later in the video. Don't you worry about it.
For years, New York City had an official policy to stop black and brown people on the street, just to see if they might have guns or drugs.
Okay, so the claim is New York City had an official policy of stopping black and brown people just in case they might have guns. I'm gonna go with no and not really. The policy she's referring to is Stop, Question, and Frisk, which became Stop and Frisk under Michael Bloomberg. Now, Stop and Frisk was done in conjunction with the NYPD's crime tracking system, CompStat. What CompStat allowed the NYPD to do was to use the crime data that they collected, put it on a map, and then send more officers to areas with higher crime. So the NYPD's presence wasn't based on race, it was based on data. On top of the increased patrols in crime-ridden areas, the NYPD was also given the power to initiate Terry stops. Terry stops come from the Supreme Court case Terry v. Ohio, where the Supreme Court ruled that you can frisk a person.
Oh my God, I'm like such a nerd back then. I realized that the video that I picked has an entire explanation on stop and frisk. And I feel like the Knowing Better video, I just re-explained stop and frisk. So this video is from December of 2018, meaning that we are in July of 2020, I think. So for almost 2 years, I've been explaining stop and frisk on the internet to no avail. Like people ask me if I've ever made an impact on anything in my entire life with any of my videos. The answer is no, because 2 days ago, I had to release a video explaining this exact same information. Like, so it never gets through to them. They always use stop and frisk. And I think I've made videos in between that time. It wasn't just this one and that one. I remember a Jenks video when Bloomberg was running where I had to explain it, and a bunch of other videos along the way. So no progress whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure in the debate I had to explain this. It's pretty ridiculous. Like, you know, you impact my life, Sean Hart. Honestly, that's really sweet, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That means a lot. I don't know why I sound sarcastic when I'm saying that. It's actually like a nice thing to say. So, yeah, sorry.
If you have reasonable suspicion that they have committed a crime, are about to commit a crime, or actively committing a crime. And if you go just by the percentages, black people were under-targeted by stop and frisk. According to the data, black people were responsible for 70% of the shootings, yet they only represented 55% of the stops. Now, while 84% of the time in stop and frisk stops, the suspect was black or Hispanic, you have to remember that 95% of the shooting suspects in New York City were black or Hispanic. In fact, the vague term people of color represented 97% of all shooting suspects in the city of New York, while white people represented only 3% of all shooting suspects. And by the way, white people were stopped 10% of the time. So if anybody's being stopped disproportionately to the level of crime that they committed, it's white people. Just saying. Now, if I were a complete and total hack like the people who worked at True TV, I would just...
Yeah. That's pretty devastating, honestly. Like I even use the arrows on the map and everything to make it simple for people. Like now I use like the bar graphs from the NYPD's thing, not like a fact sheet that has the same information from like a single year, because the NYPD puts out like their own version of a uniform crime report every single year. But yeah, it's pretty devastating how I'm doing the same exact thing. Did somebody just comment this? Do I need to play a Michael Brown video? Like, you know what? I'm gonna watch one of my Michael Brown videos because I've also been going over that case. The crazy thing is about the stop and frisk is that I've done it so many times that I can have this argument without even looking at the data. Like the year to years, like that's just all in my brain because I've had to have this argument. So, you know, there's that. Let's see. Let me. Yeah. All right. Let me play this video.
Leave it there and move along. But since
I
I'm
feel
not
like
a
I'm
partisan
moving
hack and
further
I'm actually
off
trying to
the
give you guys
screen
information, I'm going
as
to
the
tell you
video's
what
going
was
along.
wrong with stop and frisk under Mayor Bloomberg. And the problems with stop and frisk can be explained by this chart right here. As you can see at the beginning of this chart, there were about 94,000 stop, question, and frisks. However, as we got further into Mayor Bloomberg's term, the amount of stops went up dramatically into the multiple hundreds of thousands. The reason that this is a problem is that the rate of return, the arrest rate, went down as the number of stops went up. Remember what I told you about Terry v. Ohio, that stops and frisks of this nature require reasonable suspicion. Well, when you dramatically increase the number of stops, but the rate of arrest goes down, it calls into question whether or not the NYPD's expansionist version of
Look how nice I am. I'm actually giving Bill de Blasio credit for paring down the stops. Now, of course, he reduced them way too much, and now he's getting rid of the units that cover shootings. But back then, I was much more optimistic and happy because back then crime was still going down in New York City. But yeah, it's pretty not good. What's the sub goal for Sean to stand up on stream? Well, I can't get subscribers right now, but the goal is more than somebody that I'm pretty sure I can't make fun of because he's a giant Twitch streamer, but you guys all know who he is. All of you know who he is. I have to take over and destroy him. This is possible, Alf. That is possible. I also might not be wearing pants. And the underwear that I'm wearing may or may not have a giant hole in it. Oh, somebody's nephew? I don't even know. Is there somebody's nephew that's on Twitch? And communist, breadtuber? An embarrassing person all the way around? I don't know. I've never heard such a thing, and I'm not saying anything until I rise to power.
Stop and frisk fits the Terry requirement for reasonable suspicion. And it was this reason that federal courts ruled this version of stop and frisk unconstitutional. It was too broad, too expansionary, and obviously the NYPD wasn't really that
I like my
concerned
suggested
with
video
reasonable
up there.
suspicion. For those of you who are a bit confused, what I'm saying is that stop and frisk under Bloomberg did have problems. It was too expansionary and it didn't follow the Terry standard of reasonable suspicion. However, when you compare the rates of shooting suspects to the rates of people stopped by stop and frisk, you find that it wasn't racially disproportionate. Now they have
So I have dyslexia, and for some reason, hold on, where's that thing? Yeah. For some reason, I just saw this and I thought it said trouble in the sheets, and I was like, oh, it sounds controversial. I like that.
Stopped by stop and frisk,
But,
you find that it
yeah.
wasn't racially disproportionate. Now they have two examples in this. One is a black person being stopped and frisked at a barbecue.
Stop! Sir, you're in a public place and you look, dangerous.
Things that never happened.
Sir.
It's ridiculous and absurd. And another example is given by Ava here.
Men in my family have gotten jaywalking tickets from the NYPD after they didn't find anything in the stop and frisk. They weren't stopping criminals.
I already know what I'm going to say here. So she's like, they got jaywalking tickets from the NYPD when they didn't find anything. I'm like, well, they found jaywalking. That was the purpose for the stop. Like, maybe they should have let them off with a warning, but, it's just, that. Sean's little humble brag. I didn't humble brag. I'm a narcissist. But yeah. All right.
They were just stopping black people.
But the problem with that is that the person was stopped for jaywalking because they were cited for jaywalking. Remember, the standard for a Terry stop is reasonable suspicion that the person is committing a crime, is about to commit a crime, or just finished committing a crime. If you're stopped for jaywalking, even though it's petty and it's a violation, that's still technically a crime. So this search was not a violation of Terry v. Ohio. So why would you have this terrible example in your video?
Yeah,
There's a connection between the overly punitive gun sentencing laws that were passed in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s and the current crisis of mass incarceration. Instead of national gun control laws that could stop the flood of available guns, we have local laws that penalize possession, and those laws are mostly passed in cities.
So we've now
Okay, so first of all, cities are more Democratic than Republican, number one. So like they always accuse Republicans of being racist, but they're like national laws won't be racist, but local laws are racist because they're passed in cities. But here's the thing, like these are the same exact people that will turn around and say that mandatory federal minimum sentences, which represent almost no people in prison, are the big driver of racism. So even if they did this nationally, just based on who's more likely to carry guns illegally, they would be angry. So this is like, you know, the left trying to have both sides of the gun control issue. They want to advocate for gun control, but also call it racist when people do it now, because for some reason, unfathomably to them, some groups are more likely to carry illegal guns than other groups. Some groups more likely. I know this is shocking. I know I just showed you a chart that shows this like undeniably in your face, and I can show you data year after year after year showing you this, are more likely to commit shootings. Shocking. But yeah, so this is like a have it both ways kind of thing. I wonder if I say that and I just repeated what I said all those years ago.
shifted to a gun control expert who's made the claim that local gun control is racist, but national gun control won't be racist, which seems a little contradictory to what Ava said before when she was talking about the ATS analysis of 10 years worth of federal gun stings.
A lot of gun control laws really end up being about controlling Black people. In the mid-2000s, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms performed 10 years of stings to combat gun crime. A full analysis found that 91% of people arrested were people of color.
So which one is it? Our national gun control?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so they were just making the argument that national... Yeah, this is like very contradictory and weird. Also, I like how they use the example of coffee. Like, and there's white coffee beans, which are just uncomfortable, unless those are cocoa beans. Does white chocolate have its own cocoa beans? If so, those are supremacist cocoa beans. But that's ridiculous because what they're talking about is like federal gun stings. So a lot of those have to do with guns being smuggled from out of the country. And we're not getting those guns from Canada more times than not. So the people coming up from Mexico are probably who we're arresting in those national gun running operations. And unsurprisingly, the people of Mexico are people of color. I know this is shocking. Also, I like how they moved the standard right there that Black people turned into just people of color as a whole, because everything's racialist for every reason whatsoever. You know, that's how it goes. But whatever.
Control laws racist or not racist?
Black people face the highest rates of deaths by guns. But instead of protecting the families and neighborhoods who face the most gun violence, our current gun laws just double down on destroying them.
Yes, Black people are disproportionately the victims of shootings because Black people are disproportionately the perpetrators of shootings. So the laws that arrest Black people for those shootings are not double destroying the community. Do you want the police to leave the murderers in the community? Like, what are you arguing for? Also, I want to point out once again that the reason we're being told this story by Ava instead of Adam, who would normally host the show, is because True TV thinks that Ava is more representative of the community that they're talking about. And we've already been told that local gun control laws are somehow racist, but national ones aren't, except when they are. But let's stay on that local train for a section. Now, for the most part, Democrats are more in favor of gun control than Republicans. Cities with the strictest gun control laws are almost exclusively run by Democrats. These cities also tend to have a higher Black population, and Black people tend to vote for Democrats, and Black women vote for Democrats in higher rates than Black men. And members of the LGBTQ community vote for Democrats higher than straights. So True TV substituted Ava for Adam because they felt she would be more representative, when Ava statistically is the person most likely to vote for a candidate to support local gun control legislation. Didn't think that one.
Don't overpay
Oh my
for
God, all
camera
these
gear.
ads.
Wikibuy can save you money. It's a browser extension.
Mid-rolls.
One through.
That was a good camera, though. I don't like this because you guys get to see the ads that I'm watching, and I don't like that whatsoever. Although that was a good camera lens ad, and I might have wanted to watch that, like looking back at it. Let me play that joke again, because it's not even synced up to my Fade to Black, which is just not right.
is the person most likely to vote for a candidate to support local gun control legislation. Didn't think that one through very well.
Yeah, I'm so
So at this
sarcastic
point,
and
despite the
rude.
numerous inaccuracies I pointed out, True TV has actually made a case against gun control.
Honestly, like they were inaccurate about the stop and frisk. They had some mixed things, but there's like a lot of opinion and emotion here. That's not really inaccuracies. But I just asserted that with confidence, and none of you noticed that because, you know, I'm flexing my confidence on you. Like, there are a bunch of inaccuracies in this video. The stop and frisk is one. It's really more like misstatements thrown at you quickly and contradicting points put forward in the video. Like, I'm sure that they do arrest more people of color in federal gun stings, but that doesn't mean what they say it means. So, you know, it's just misunderstanding of information because they're not as smart as me. 10,000 IQ. But let's see.
Control legislation. However, since the true purpose of this video is to virtue signal about race, you can't really say conservatives are right. So now they're going to backpedal and claim that gun rights don't extend to black people.
No, Dad, that's something you need to realize too. Gun rights don't protect black people either. Take the Stand Your Ground law the NRA pushed legislators to pass in Florida.
Again, if you weren't sure that this was left-wing propaganda, here's a pointless inclusion of the NRA right here.
NRA pushed legislators to pass in Florida. It says use of deadly force is justified to defend yourself in your home or car, even if you could run away.
Wrong, incorrect, inaccurate, you are mistaken. So the...
Yeah, I could see that, and I could already tell like what I'm going after them for. They have they're very they have like a very superficial understanding of stand your ground, and this all comes out of the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin case. I remember that people were the original reason that conservatives got on the Zimmerman side is because the left tried to make that about stand your ground. Meanwhile, stand your ground in Florida was like a pre-trial hearing where you could dismiss charges in obvious cases of self-defense. George Zimmerman never once invoked the right to have a stand your ground hearing. So it had nothing to do with that. They were just using stand your ground as like a thing so that they could, you know, attack their political opponents with it and get rid of stand your ground and use the Martin case as a justification for that. But yeah, but I'm going to explain this here because I think this is where I'm the most snarky and the most rude. And this is probably one of the most inaccurate parts of the Adam Ruins Everything video.
Crack team of researchers at True TV managed to conflate three completely different and separate pieces of legislation and pass them off as one. First of all, not having a duty to flee in your own home does not come from stand your ground. It comes from the Castle Doctrine.
True.
The Castle Doctrine states that your home is your castle, and when somebody breaks in, you have the right to defend yourself with deadly force. It has nothing to do with stand your ground. States that don't have stand your ground have the Castle Doctrine, and the reason it exists is because overzealous prosecutors would go after people for defending their own home with deadly force.
That actually happens in London. Like, people break into other people's houses and they get injured on their way into the home, and then they sue the homeowner for something having to, like, something that they were negligent about that ended up injuring them. Like, it's crazy what people get away with. But yeah, so that's obviously the Castle Doctrine.
The second law that they're getting wrong in this presentation is Florida's self-defense law. Self-defense laws vary from state to state. In some states, you have a duty to flee. In some states, you don't have a duty to flee. If you live in a state where you do, in fact, have a duty to flee, what that means is even if you kill somebody in self-defense who is threatening your life, you can still be found guilty of manslaughter or even murder if a prosecutor can argue that you had another way out of the situation. New York would be an example where you have a duty to flee. Now, Florida's self-defense law, you do not have a duty to flee. And what that means is that as long as you are in a place where you are legally allowed to be, if you kill somebody in self-defense, you cannot be prosecuted for that. Now, the purpose of having a self-defense law where you do not have the duty to flee is to prevent an overzealous prosecutor from nitpicking the circumstances of your self-defense case. And the third law that True TV has inaccurately molded into one is stand your ground. Now, the stand your ground law applies to obvious cases of self-defense. It gives you a right to a stand your ground hearing, which is a pre-trial hearing where a judge examines the facts of the case And if it's obviously a self-defense case, the judge can dismiss all charges before trial happens. Now, the reason this exists is, again, because overzealous prosecutors would prosecute obvious cases of self-defense, and the person would be found not guilty, but they would incur thousands of dollars in legal bills. So stand your ground is just an extra protection for defendants against prosecutors. So now that we've got their mischaracterization of...
Yeah, that's a pretty devastating counterpoint, honestly. Like, I really destroyed Adam Ruins Everything's career right there, and he doesn't make any more money after that. After my video came out, like, he quit, and he issued an apology for not knowing anything. And all of his researchers, they, gave up on their lives, so to speak. Figuratively speaking. Yeah, it was pretty devastating. It was honestly shameful. There was a lot of crying involved on Adam's behalf. I would say that I don't want to say that I was impressed with myself there, but that was impressive. And I did it. And I am, in fact, impressed. So, that's generally how it went scientifically. Just saying. All right, let's see what else we got. I can't believe this is my #1 viewed video.
What a stand your ground law is out of the way. Let's go to the case that they brought up.
Not everyone gets to use it. Marissa Alexander was sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Oh, I know this
just for
case.
firing a
First of all,
warning
she's
shot
out.
to defend herself against her abusive
That's not
father.
true.
Stand your ground didn't help her.
So the argument here is because Marissa Alexander was convicted and sentenced to 20 years, stand your ground doesn't apply to black people. Of course, there's a bunch of things that True TV, for some reason, decided to leave out. First of all, Marissa Alexander was in her estranged husband's home, not her own home. So technically, she was in his castle, and she brought a gun into his home. And it was argued by the prosecutor that that act of bringing a gun to the home was a premeditative act. So those two factors alone make this not an obvious case of self-defense, and that's why the stand your ground hearing didn't work out in her favor. Now,
oh yeah, I didn't actually explain that pretty well, but what she actually did was they got into an argument in the home. She left, went to her car, got a gun, and then returned to the scene, and that's when she fired her warning shot. So the idea that that's the same thing as a stand your ground, it's like, no, you did flee. Like, you can't leave and then come back and then claim, oh, I no duty to flee. Like, no, that's a plan. So yeah, that's why it didn't apply to her. And then they let her out anyway. But yeah, and she also fired a warning shot very close to hitting him. It wasn't like into the ceiling or into the ground or anything like that. Like when you fire a warning shot and it's very close to hitting somebody, that's Latin for you missed. So, but again, they let her out anyway because people complained.
True TV states that she was convicted and sentenced to 20 years, and that's true, but it's not the whole truth. Another thing that True TV conveniently left out is that Marissa Alexander actually appealed that conviction, and it got overturned, and she was granted a new trial. Now, in that new trial, she actually pled guilty in exchange for time served. But if she didn't live in Florida and she lived in a state where possession of that gun were illegal, or she had a duty to flee, she probably wouldn't have won that appeal. So even though she was initially convicted, the way the gun control laws were set up in Florida ended up helping her overturn that conviction and get a much better deal, and she's out today. And the final thing True TV left out, as they're trying to use the Marissa Alexandra story to abolish stand your ground, is that Marissa Alexandra is an advocate for increased stand your ground protections. So great job, True TV, presenting her story to argue.
Your face is your moneymaker.
Oh my God.
So why would you pair it with cheap plastic?
All these ads.
Why does some plastic cost $500?
It's not even a good one.
You against her position.
Why is it so misaligned with the timing of the fades? Like, YouTube is supposed to insert the mid-rolls in there in the places where there are pauses, and they do it mid-sentence 3 seconds before the fade. That doesn't make any sense. Like, what kind of nonsense is this? What kind of chicanery is this? YouTube algorithm.
During a routine traffic pullover, he informed the police officer that he had his gun on him, and the cop shot and killed him in front of his girlfriend and her 4-year-old daughter.
Oh, we're going to Philando Castillo now? Now, before we get into the Philando Castillo story, I want to point out how we switch from facts, figures, and data to 2 isolated instances.
But I drive with my weapon every day. That's not against the law.
As you
Okay,
wait.
so imagine I'm a police officer.
Oh,
pulling
this
you
is
over,
amazing.
And you're Philando Castile. Do you have your license and insurance?
Yes. Officer, I do have to tell you, I do have a firearm on me.
Okay, don't reach for it then.
I'm
Don't pull it out.
I'm not pulling it out.
He's not pulling it out.
Don't pull it out.
Bang! That is the exact moment Philando Castile was shot.
That's how you're going to present the Philando Castillo story.
Oh my God, so much drama. Yeah, that's not that's not really an accurate characterization of what happened with the Castillo case. You can actually watch the video of what happened, and also, like, by the way, I do think the cop acted like pretty irrationally in that case. But Castillo was reaching for, I believe, his wallet, and that's why he ended up getting killed. And the other thing that people leave out, and people should always keep this in the back of their mind whenever they're being pulled over by a cop, is you don't know the reason why you're being pulled over, even if it's for a traffic violation. So Castillo was actually being pulled over because his car matched the description of a car that was involved in an armed robbery. So the cop was already on edge as he was approaching his car. So even if you didn't do nothing and like you feel like you're fully within your legal rights and all that, you don't have the same information that like other officers have. And that's actually happened to me where I literally had the police called and somebody said that somebody was hiding in my house and like the cops were like guns blazing to get this fugitive. So like, you know, you don't know. So you should always assume that there's some other information that you don't have. If Castillo had put like his hands on the steering wheel, he probably would have been shot. But also that officer was like out of control. I remember that video where he's like screaming and panicking and like roaring. It's ridiculous. But also I think that officer was Latino. But you know, like those are all interesting like things. It didn't go down like that, I guess is what I'm saying. Really?
Okay, so a lot of people on the right automatically assert that Philando Castillo was reaching for his gun. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, we can't see what happened in the car. All we have is the dash cam footage and the live stream footage from Philando Castillo's girlfriend. That being said, the most likely explanation for why Philando Castillo was shot was that he was reaching for his wallet or his insurance or some such thing. I'll link the dash cam video below because what you see and hear when watching it is a really panicked officer and what I would classify as a miscommunication that led to a bad shooting. The fact is, Philando Castillo did announce that he had a gun in the car, and the idea that he would then reach for the gun in an aggressive way doesn't make any sense. You can hear in the video the officer saying don't reach for it when he probably should have just asked Castillo to put his hands on the dash. Again, I don't want to speak for Castillo because
these
he
cuts
is
are so
dead, but my
harsh.
guess from his girlfriend's statement was that he was reaching for his driver's license and he probably thought, obviously I'm not reaching for it, I'm just going to get my information. With all that being said, this is one bad shooting where we don't have all the information and 100% coverage with the video. The idea that it doesn't happen to white people is ridiculous. I did a whole video about how we had 100%
I forgot
coverage
about
on the
that
video
one.
and the police shot a white person that they shouldn't
That's
have
the
shot.
hotel guy.
And in that video I said we would still be talking about Michael Brown and Philando Castillo long after everybody's forgotten that guy.
We are still talking about Michael Brown, and it is 2020, and he's been proven to be in the wrong in that shooting since 2015. Amazing. But look how angry and upset and emotional this is. This is an emotional moment, guys. Like, this is what this video is. There's a ton of emotion, not a lot of fact-based information.
He did everything that responsible gun owners are supposed to do.
No, not really.
And the NRA didn't come to his defense. For all that talk about protecting gun rights, they sure are quiet when black people are gunned down for exercising them.
And again, you see True TV trying to spin it to club the NRA, saying they didn't defend Philando Castillo. Obviously, they don't care about black people. Again, this is ridiculous, and they expose themselves and their agenda when they do this. Number one, the dashcam evidence wasn't released to the public until after the police officer's trial. All we had initially was the girlfriend's live stream after the shooting. So was the NRA supposed to just defend Philando Castillo based on that woman's word? Secondly, this wasn't really a gun rights case. It was a wrongful death case at best. Steele wasn't denied a concealed weapons permit. He wasn't arrested by a cop who ignored his concealed weapons permit. He was shot by a cop who probably misinterpreted his action as reaching for a gun when he was reaching for his wallet. The NRA didn't defend Philando Castillo is nothing but a meaningless left-wing talking point because the NRA doesn't typically take up wrongful death cases. Furthermore, the implication is that the NRA doesn't defend black people and their gun rights, which is completely false. In McDonald versus Chicago, the NRA supported Otis McDonald, who was a black man, not the city of Chicago and their handgun ban. McDonald versus Chicago overturned the Chicago handgun ban and affirmed Americans' individual right to keep and bear arms in all 50 states. When a black man was arrested for mistakenly thinking that his concealed weapons permit allowed him to carry over state lines, the NRA also took up that case because they believed it was an honest mistake. So the idea that the NRA should have taken...
Yeah, because there's a difference. Again, it's like you have to have like a basic foundational understanding of the law, and a lot of these shows just rely on you not knowing anything about the law when they make these like dramatic proclamations. So a wrongful death case, that's usually done by like a civil rights lawyer. So you usually have somebody to go, sue the city later on. Like if Castillo had been arrested for having his gun despite having a permit, he could have went to the NRA and the NRA would have fought on his behalf related to his permit. But what ended up happening is he was killed and it became a wrongful death case, and he wasn't killed in violation of his Second Amendment right. Like the only thing you'd argue is a wrongful death. Like if he had no gun in the car and he was reaching for his wallet, then he might have been shot because the guy pulling him over thought he was an armed robber. Like the car matched the description of an armed robbery suspect. So like it's like officer misconduct at the highest level, a wrongful death, but not a actual like gun rights issue. Like I know that might be confusing for some people, but just think about it with your brains and you'll know I'm right.
Up a wrongful death case is ridiculous, and the idea that they don't defend the Second Amendment rights of black people is also ridiculous, and this video itself is ridiculous. So True TV, this is probably your worst episode of Adam Ruins Everything. Your attempts to seem woke and progressive just
I like how I have like all these dramatic proclamations. I've literally seen like 10 episodes of Adam Ruins Everything, and at this point I probably saw like 7. So I'm like, this is your worst of all time because I'm covering it and you gotta like amp up the dramatic. But yeah,
forwarded negative racial stereotypes, and by the end, like most left-wingers, you resulted to emotional appeals and smearing the NRA. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Let me know what you think about
make
this
sure you
episode of
subscribe
Adam
to my
Ruins
channel.
Everything down in the comments.
Look how different my card was back then. Like I don't even have a 4th thing on this. And look how few accounts I used to have back in the day. And look, I even had Maker support back then. Like I never got a single Maker supporter. I guess that's what they're called. Yeah, that's old school. Yeah, so that's my my video. It's my #1 most viewed video on my YouTube channel, guys.